Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. I have with us today. He's a writer, producer, director, and he has a new film right now. It's in the festival circuit. It's called Bishop's Cove. I have Charles D. Lincoln with us. Charles, welcome to the Horror Room.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Pleasure to have you, man. So, I just got done watching the trailer to Bishop's Cove. It looks fucking intense, man. It looks.
Oh yeah. No, it's a very intense film. My influences for it, I would say, are David Lynch and Martyrs and Hellraiser. So it's all this this kind of mishmash of just. It's got some very dark materials, and a lot of it is based on experiences back from when I was like in my early 20s and stuff, because don't let the hair dye fool you, I'm old. And back in being like a homeless punk kid in the early 2000s, so a lot of it is based on stuff that I saw, stuff that happened to friends of mine, or and then it kind of leads into a modern story of someone who has gone past their past, and whether or not the things you do in the past, how they affect you now, and whether or not there's any sort of if you do bad things in the past and then you try to change your life and live up to it, and try to live a better life, should the crimes or the wrongs you've done to other people still affect you now, even though you're no longer that person. So that's kind of the theme of the film, really.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you, what do you think? Do you think your wrongs in the past should carry over to your future?
I think it really depends on what you did. I think that everyone changed. I was an awful kid. I was in fights all the time. I was breaking shit and setting things on fire, and I was a delinquent as like a teenager because I was a really angry kid, and got arrested for fighting a couple times. And the last time that happened, it was a guy beating up his girlfriend at a club. Me and him, he took her keys. I went out to follow him. We kind of got into it. Police picked us up and gave us both a court date. And this is what made me decide to stop fighting and being a ruffian. Was our court date. When we had it, we couldn't actually go to the courthouse because my court date was September 16th, 2001. And the courthouse was 3 blocks from the World Trade Center. So, it was kind of a thing to me to, maybe you should calm yourself down. This is, you got saved having a big fine or all this hassle and, legal bullshit. So, maybe try to be a little, less of anxious to go and fight people. So, if suddenly, I don't know, someone who I got in a fight with like 20 years ago appeared at my door, I would be like, I don't know who the fuck you are. Why you, like, I don't know why this is bothering you so much. Go away. So, I haven't done, some of the things in the film that reflect on one of our characters. But, I do think that it depends on what you do. If you're out there raping and murdering people, well, then, that probably should get back to you at a certain point. But, other things I think that you can definitely kind of, change with your actions and try to just be a better person. I think we all have the capacity for growth. And how much we actually do is up to us.
It's hard for me. Like, I carry a grudge for a long fucking time. Like, if somebody fucked me over back in high school, and I'm pretty sure you go through this too, and they send you a friend request like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like we were buddies back then and something. I'm like, "Fuck you! I'm not fucking like."
Oh well, it's different. It's it's a totally different thing when it's a personal situation.
Yeah.
I was raised by the Italian half of my family. I'm a mixed race kid, but I was raised by the Italian half of my family. Because my dad was, my parents were busy having orgies and doing lots of coke, so they dropped me off with my grandma. And so I was raised by the Italian side of my family. And Italians, we are raised with, loyalty, food, and vengeance. And those are the three things that we kind of put a priority on, as we grow up. So, I am very vengeful and very petty, but but that's also why it's a question in the film. It's not like I'm, when you write a film like this, I really feel that it's up to the audience to make their own decision. And for them to actually think about the question that I'm answering there. For myself, I will hold a grudge forever. And, I can distinctly say that there have been people who I was at their funeral, who I, said you died first. So,
Because I'm kind of envious of people, especially with their exes. They're like, "Oh, I'm so pleasant with my ex. I hope my ex well." I'm like, "Fuck my exes. Hope they all fucking die." Like, that's the way I've always been. Like,
for me, it really depends. I'm actually friends with several of my exes, but not all of them. That's kind of how it is. It's like, thinking about it. Yeah, I think I'm friends with most of the ones where I screwed up.
I can see that. Yes.
Yeah. But if the ones who no, that's not true. One actually really, really hurt me, and she and I are actually good friends now, but that was like 10, 15 years ago or whatever. Yeah. But and the relationship I just got out of, I'm still friends with everybody involved in there. So, but yeah, no, I mean, and then, but then there are actually, it's very funny because my very first girlfriend in New York, I tried to look her up and I realized, oh, it was 20 years ago. She probably looks nothing like you remember. And because I really like Irish girls, I looked her up and I was like, oh, there's like 40 people with this name. I don't know which one of them could be her. So, I have a weird thing where I'm with a lot of people named Kate over the years. I guess it's a very popular name with Irish people.
I just find it always weird when I hear somebody say pleasant things about their exes. I'm like, that's weird. Okay. I just don't say. I just don't say nothing. I just don't say nothing about them.
Yeah. It all depends, as I said, some I have no, it's, the funny thing is for me is I would say I have less animosity towards any of my exes than I do for some of my former bandmates. Oh. Because a band, I was did music for like, 14 years or something like that. And a band is like being married to like 6 people. Mm-hmm. So there are definitely people who, if I saw them on fire, I would not piss on them to fucking, to put them out. And then there are people who I really, really miss because I was so fucking close to them. Because, I mean, when you're really like dedicated in music, then you are, number one, you're an awful boyfriend at that time. Because, if you have a show or you have like practice and then she has a birthday, you're going to the show or the practice. And that's how it is. That's just how it is. It's like, I mean, she can come to practice, I guess, and we'll go somewhere afterwards. But yeah, no, I mean, that's why I've always said that I don't think musicians should date like normal people. I don't, and I come from that musician world where it was like, you're always going to be second to the person that, in fact, I think it's most artists. I was seeing a girl
in entertainment in general.
Yeah.
All that.
Oh yeah. Like I was seeing a girl from France, and I remember her telling me about how her father was an artist and how sometimes he would get so engulfed in his art that there would be times where he would forget to pick her up from school. Wow. And I couldn't even say, well, that's fucked up, because I was like, yeah, if I had kids, that probably would happen too. It's because that's just it. Like I've, like even when I'm on set, when I'm directing and everything, my production partner Chelsea has to remind me to eat sometimes. Wow. Because even when it's lunch, for me, it's like, all right, well that's cool, because that's now time for me to start, setting up the next thing and talking to, and all this sort of stuff, and everyone's like, no, we want to just like relax and eat, and so. So I'm like, okay, great, I'll start doing it. But, because I feel that like you have to have, if you're real dedicated, true artists, people have this unhealthy, obsessive work ethic, where they just kind of put everything, all their like social and personal lives. It's why so many people have anxiety and depression and all this sort of stuff, because it attracts people who aren't very good at a work-life balance.
Correct.
You know.
I mean, even during this YouTube thing for less than a year, it's a obsession. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's an obsession,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes away a lot of my free time. You know, it's. But when you're in this industry, I'm gonna say in this industry, but when you're doing something like this, like, it's time consuming. It takes a lot out of you, and it's addictive too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've certainly done stuff where I've been on somebody else's production. I remember distinctly the 21st Century Demon Hunter, which is available on Blu-ray and DVD, the first season. When we were working on the kind of 1.5 season, which will come out next year, hopefully. I was working on another production, I believe it was a Netflix pilot, and it was up in the Catskills. And, we worked on that, I think, for like 12 hours that day. And then we took the van back to New York. And I was like, okay, great. I'll get like 3 hours of sleep, and then I'll, get up and start, working on my own thing. Because I had, we were shooting some of our stuff the next day. However, I left my phone in the van. So now I have to run all around Brooklyn and like find where the van is. And I had to go to the, one of the producers who, got the phone. I had to go to him. And by the time I get back home, it's like 2 a.m. And we have like a 6 a.m. call time. So I was like, fuck it. I guess I just won't sleep tonight. So I think I was up for like 30, probably 30. And then we shot for like 16 hours that day.
Jeez.
So, that was, I think probably, I'm awful with math, but I think it was like probably a good 31, 32 hours I was awake. And you can't do that unless you really obsess about this sort of thing. Even Chelsea and I do a podcast called Cinematic Autopsy, where originally we were just going to talk about bad movies. And then by like the 10th one, I was like, no, I can't. Like, this is making me lose the will to live. And then I have to edit these things for like 4 hours. So, and that was the thing, is like, any episode we do, it takes me twice as long to actually edit it as it does to record it. Because, you have to get rid of like, gaps in sound, and you have to make sure everyone's clear. And, if someone, like, if you have like a guest on and they're like, oh, I didn't tell you that I have my air conditioner on, but, you can, you certainly can hear it when you go to edit it. It just got down to 40. Yeah.
And that's the toughest part too about doing these even pre-recorded interviews.
Mm-hmm.
You have a guest on. If they have bad internet service, or their wife comes in screaming, or their dog comes screaming, you got to edit that shit out. Like,
oh yeah,
you can't just keep it in. You have to.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes on Cinematic Autopsy we keep those things in just because it's funny. If it's like there's a crash in the background and me like, what the hell happened? And Chelsea telling a whole story about her dog or something, like, those are fun for me. But yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely times where it's like, okay, what the hell is going on outside? And it's like, someone's mowing the lawn outside her place or something. And, and then it becomes this weird, when you listen to it, it's like, okay, I can raise the noise gate so that there's no noise between when she's talking. But as soon as she's talking, you hear that all in the background and stuff. And it's, so as I said, it takes twice as long to edit any of these, but, I happen to really love doing it. And I also edit all, when I shoot, I shoot with the edit in mind. So, I tend to edit my own stuff. I know some people say directors shouldn't do that because they should get like another perspective in there. And I can totally see where that argument comes from. But I go in there. I know exactly what we're looking for. I know exactly what we're going to cut away to. And I try to shoot to that. And maybe try to get a little bit extra in case something goes wrong or in case there's something there that I didn't see. It came from I did a film, and there was one part where, the camera is focusing on the main characters, and I was one of the supporting antagonists, but I was doing a whole thing with one of the extras, and I was so sad that there was none of that footage existed. Because I was like, oh my God, that would have been so fun to cut away to that. And then I when I looked through the footage, I was like, oh my God, you don't have any of that. No. So that's why I became very aware of the edit of the film and what, and now if I'd done that now, that would have been like, I would have had at least one take where it was just focused on the weird little things me and the extra were doing. Where I was just trying to intimidate him. I played a vampire in it, and I was just being intimidating to this one guy, and it was such funny stuff too. Funny, like not in like the haha, this is cheesy way, more of in the of the, oh God, he's such a piece of shit, which I kind of excel at playing those characters, I guess.
Honor it, yes.
Yes, it was a lesson I learned from my dad in the way of don't do what he did, because he did Last House on the Left. Yes, my dad was fucking weasel in Last House on the Left. Always brings that up, and I just brought it up here. But he did that movie, and Last House on the Left, I think it had like a $300,000 budget and made millions in like 1972, which is like
crazy.
Yeah, that'd be I don't know. That'd be like Evil Dead Rise making like, oh, I don't know, like Marvel money or something. Yeah. Yeah, like it would be ridiculous. So it made all this money, and he got all these horror offers in there. But number one, he really didn't like Last House on the Left, and number two, he was like, well, I've done my horror movie now. Now it's time for me to be a leading man. And of course, those roles never came. So, of course, then he went into the porn industry and became a fucking legend in that. But I learned from that he didn't want to get typecast and he didn't want all this sort of thing. And I was like, no, I'm fine being typecast. So, because the key word in typecast is cast.
Sometimes there's nothing wrong with it. Like the guy who played Napoleon Dynamite, they wanted to give him like numerous fucking sequels. He was like, I don't want to be typecast. I don't want to be Napoleon Dynamite. And where the fuck is he now? Nowhere.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, what is he? What actually has he done besides Napoleon Dynamite? And that's not putting him down. I mean, hey, if he didn't want to do that work, he didn't want to do that work. But for me, it's like, yeah, okay, so I'll play, drug dealers and rapists and abusive boyfriends and just all the worst people. Whenever they're like, hey, there's a long-haired guy with a beard who's tall and creepy looking, let's go and cast him. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And what's funny is I did a film recently, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name, so I won't. But I did a film recently where the director actually offered me like the really nice guy role. And I read the script and I was like, I don't know, he seemed too nice. Like I couldn't find something to grab onto. Like he didn't have any flaws whatsoever. And I was and then there's like just an utter scumbag in the script. And I was like, I could play that guy like with my eyes closed. But this guy, I don't know, I'm having a little problems. Like, do you want to like maybe work on me with like a rewrite or something? And he's like, how would you like to play that role instead? I'm like, yeah, okay. I'll do that one then. Saved him a rewrite, and I got to, be another one of my classic awful people.
Now, in the trailer for Bishop's Cove, okay, so I remember New York in the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. In the 90s doesn't look like nothing how New York does now, right? And you did a great job.
Oh yeah,
I could smell the trash and the homeless people and the prostitutes. I mean, through the trailer, like it definitely has that grungy New York 90s.
Oh yeah,
up to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was my youth, you know, that was my, like, you know, 20s and stuff, and so I remember it so vividly, and I know all the places you can go that still kind of look like that. So I you know, we actually shot a lot of it in the East Village, but you know, like even some of the places we shot in the East Village don't look like they did in the movie because it's just gentrifying that quickly.
Yeah.
And we were very smart, and we decided to start our film on just the best date ever of January 2020. So nothing bad possibly could have happened that year to delay us at all. But so yeah, and then we were going to start up in March. There you go. So yeah.
That New York, I mean, 25 years ago was a cesspool. I mean, there was no Times Square, and it was Times Square, but there was no Mickey Mouse and this and that. Like, no, you would get robbed or mugged in New York, and it was filled with drug addicts, prostitutes, pimps, and everything else.
Yeah, you know, those are my people. You know, those are no. I mean, that was the thing. Like, I grew up, like, you know, like I said, like before I went to Long Island, the first couple of years of my life were in Manhattan. I was born in Hell's Kitchen. I'm like, I think one of like 10 people who's actually in Manhattan, in, you know, New York, who's actually born in Manhattan. And you know, because I literally have never met, maybe, you know, like at least in the last 10 years, I have not met anyone who was born in Manhattan. And you know, so my dad, you know, we'd go to like the movies or something, and he would, you know, walk through Times Square, and all like the pimps knew him and stuff, and you know, because like he worked in the porn industry, and he was like friends with all the underground people, and so, you know, I would have like the pimps like going, "Yo, little man, give me some skin," and all that sort of stuff, and like that was my child. So I've never been like bothered by any of those sort of people, because those are, you know, the kind of, I guess, what other people consider the dregs of society have always been like and I was a musician. I would argue most musicians are probably worse than any of those people there. Because it's a job where, you know, for a while, let me explain a fun thing that I tried at one point, where I was like, you know what, I'm going to avoid becoming an alcoholic by never paying for my own drinks. And yeah, no, I was still drunk every night.
I thought you were about to say that you were pimping hoes. Let me try pimping hoes.
No.
I was like, whoa.
No, if I was, I wouldn't say that on the air. That would be, you know. But you know, I
edit that out.
Yeah, no, I would never do any of that sort of thing. You know, my name is Charles Lincoln, not 50 Cent. But so but you know, I just remember, like, you know, you're living in this, like, you travel from town to town like a bunch of Vikings. You are encouraged by your fans constantly to do whatever you want, whenever you want. And women are throwing themselves at you, and you're getting bombarded with free alcohol. And I didn't do drugs at the time. It's so funny. I never did drugs until I actually went into film. But I had them around me all the time. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it was it was crazy, the amount of temptation that you had to do literally anything you wanted to do. And that's the thing about being a musician too, is it's not like when you're in film, there's a certain level of stuff you're allowed to get away with and stuff you're not allowed to get away with. You know, like even like literally the only thing you can't get away with in music is baby fucking. That's when you lose your fans. There's the singer of the Lost Prophets. I think he like got arrested for like fucking an infant or something like that, and that guy actually lost his fans. But anybody else, Johnny Cash burned down a forest. Elvis Presley was dating a 14-year-old.
I was about to say, as a musician, you can sleep with teenage girls, underage girls, and it's not looked down upon.
Yes, and even then, how many R. Kelly fans are there still? You know, like how many? Oh. Yeah, and Iggy Pop impregnated a 13-year-old, and all these, all these people that I love listening to. And it's like, you're allowed to do whatever you want. People are like, Gigi Allen, where it's like, yeah, man, it's awesome. He shits on stage and then beats up members of the audience with the fucking mic stand. That's great. I want to be around that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was amazing about it for me, is it made just this like insane Viking who like, I was able to do whatever I wanted. And it's funny because when I went into film, I've still had people who've said to me like, "Oh my God, you're like one of the craziest people I know," and I'm like, "You're meeting me at a 4." Like, this is me trying to be adult, responsible, business Charles. An example, like there was a playwright who I pissed off when I first got into this industry. I pissed him off because I didn't know what a tab was. I've never had to pay a tab. And so when, he was talking about a play that he wanted me to be in and whatever. And he kept buying drinks and he was like, "Are you going to cover half the tab or whatever?" And I was like, sure. I didn't know what a tab was. So I just like, okay, I don't know what that is, but I'm sure he'll explain it to me later on. So, and then we bought a whole lot of drinks, and he got very angry that I didn't pay for half of them. I was like, "Oh, that's what a tab is? Yeah. Oh, I would have said no if she would ask me to pay for the drinks." Jesus.
I have several friends who are and were musicians.
Mm-hmm.
They say that, all men, and they said that it's a mind fuck because no one ever tells you no.
Yeah.
So when people tell you no, you're like, "What? I don't know what that word means. I don't like, that's uncomprehend. I don't comprehend with no. I'm only told yes all the time."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very weird feeling to kind of go into, and I work in film. That's still not the real world, but it's more real world than music is.
Yeah.
And, and here I was the first to say I get very bitter it's one of the reasons why I work as my own producer and why I work with Chelsea, because I don't want a producer that will tell me no to my ideas. And Chelsea is a great businesswoman, and she because I'm awful at business. I don't know how to handle money. I was a musician, literally, if you want to know an actual story of just how, and so this is actually a story of a level of musicians that other musicians were, because I actually said no to this. So we were supposed to play in Florida at this club, right? And what ended up happening was about 2 weeks before the show, they called me up and they're like, "Hey, Charles, just want to let you know that Combi Craze came through here, so we're not going to be able to pay you." And I was like, "Excuse me? What?" And he's like, "Well, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Are you going to be charging people for the show that we're going to, that we're going to be playing at?" He's like, "Yeah, well, then how come we're not going to be getting any of that money?" And he had some bullshit excuse or whatever, trying to, to not pay me still. So I was like, "All right, well, it doesn't sound like we'll be able to do business then." So, but he's like, no, listen though, I have 2 reasons why you should still come and play for us, okay? So check this out. The age of consent is 16. And I don't know if you guys do blow or not, but I can really, really hook you up. And I was just like, dude, first of all, I come from New York City. If I wanted to do drugs and have sex with, I could, because we have both of those things here. What we need, I'm like, on the other hand, though, let me give you a counter offer, sir. Okay. How about, since you have this hookup for cocaine, how about you get a whole lot of cocaine, right? And then you sell it. Maybe to those underage girls, perhaps. And then you take that money and you use that to pay us. Because we can't fucking pay for our travel on underage girls and cocaine, dude. Like, we're fucking driving down there and paying for gas and lodging and all this other shit. So, but that's the thing. You constantly had people trying to screw you out of money. You constantly had people trying, it's now I run into that with, thankfully, with Demon Hunter and with Teresa and Allison, we have a great distributor who isn't, trying to screw us. But I hear so many stories, and we had we have had negative experiences with other people, and it's it's kind of funny. It's like watching people in the film industry try to screw me over, and it's like, dude, I've dealt with fucking club promoters. Like, they tried to fucking tell me to drive 2,000 miles for underage girls and drugs. Like, you guys tried to,
but somebody would actually do it though. Somebody actually would do it.
But that's exactly the thing. They wouldn't have made me that offer if other people didn't say yes to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there are, and I was told by one of the bands that was supposed to play with us that night that that club gets like 2,000-3,000 people, and the bands there basically and I'm like, well, wait, so they don't pay, and they're like, they don't pay anybody. And I'm like, well, why does anybody fucking play? And they're like, well, because everyone gets to pretend they're Motley Crue. So they get to be like, oh my God, we've got women coming from all over and all these drugs and drinking, and this is so much fucking fun. But they're screwing you. They're screwing you blind. And and that was the thing is like, and even with like managers, I would have people give me their card and my first question would be, well, who else do you manage? And I'd, mention a whole bunch of bands I hadn't heard of. And I would be like, you've heard of us though, right? They'd be like, yeah, well, then I think I'm probably doing a pretty good job without you. Because I haven't heard of anybody. You come at me and you're like, if you name me 5 bands and I know at least 2 of them and I know they're doing well, then okay, we can talk. But,
Now, is it the same way when it comes to the film? Dealing with distributors?
Dealing with distributors, like I said, we've had one good experience, one bad experience. And the good experience, that was actually a recommendation. That's one of the things that I wanted, with our second deal. It kind of became like, well, let's ask people who they work with and who they can recommend. Because I think that's something that's definitely a thing I would recommend for any indie filmmakers out there, is ask people who have a distribution deal, who they work with, whether or not they're getting any money, whether or not that person is fair to them, whether or not there's any sort of basically what the deal is, because that's kind of the way that you learn who is good at it and who is bad at it, is by word of mouth and talking to other people, and they'll let you know. No one's going to have a shitty deal and be like, oh yeah, man, they're great. They'll complain about not getting their money. And our experience with for Demon Hunter and Teresa and Allison, we've been working with Burning Bulb, and they've been wonderful with us. So I was very, very happy that they've been as fair with us and as and as cool as they have been. So and the fact that we've had pretty good sales actually of the 21st Century Demon Hunter DVD, which that's starring that's where my production partner Chelsea and I met, was on working on that, because she's the lead in it. So it's I would say that's one of the big pitfalls of this industry, is you have to deal with that. And then the even bigger bastards can be investors a lot of times, because then they want to stick their finger in the pie and they want to tell you what they want to do, like especially when it comes to focus testing and all that sort of stuff, because that happens in the indie world too, not just in the big, you hear focus testing, you think of like a $150 million tentpole film, but there are people out there still trying to focus test a 50 to a 100K movie. The one big thing with us is that when we did focus testing, we talked online to only horror fans and stuff, because those were the only people that I really cared about what their opinions were, who saw an early cut of Bishop's Cove. It was really important to me that it be the audience that would be coming to us anyway. So I knew what they liked and what their questions were. And, and sometimes they brought up a good question that we hadn't answered. And when it came time for reshoots, we tried to handle those, because most focus testing will be like, hey, let's go get 5, fucking 12 assholes from the mall.
That's exactly what he did. Yes.
Yeah, and of
And
course,
some of them have, and some of them never watch horror movies or hate fucking horror movies.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's how you end up with like, there's some horror films that are really bad that when you see like the early cuts, it's like, oh my God, this was such a better film. But, then it came down to, well, this tested badly because people were confused. So we have to go and change it. I think it was Kevin Smith who said, the problem with focus testing is that you get that first audience in there and they make all their suggestions and they're like, oh, we should change this and change that and take this out that confused me and all this other stuff. And so then a completely different audience will now see the new version that has been focus tested already. And they have all their questions that now have to change the movie completely. And it's kind of, to me, it's like cooking food where it's like, you know your ingredients, you know what you're making, you know what you're trying to do. And hey, if you know someone who enjoys your cooking, you give them a taste. You see what they, I'm Italian, so I cook. You give them a taste. You see, hey, does this need more of this? Does this need more of that? Okay, that's great. But if you now have 12 fucking assholes just coming off the street and they all have their own ingredients,
And you have a big pile of shit in the pan.
Yeah, exactly. And the food that was going to be great before is now just this inedible mess because you've had all these people who don't know what they're fucking doing, or who's, it's like, oh, well, it's Italian food. Fuck that. I don't like Italian food. Let me go and put in some, like fucking sriracha or something. I don't know. And that's just kind of the thing is that, when you're showing your film off to people, I think it's definitely important to get an audience to view it and to kind of get their opinions and stuff. But you want an audience of people who would be predisposed to watch this film anyway, because those are going to be the people who are going to tell you their friends, hey, you got to see this movie called Bishop's Cove. It's, it's intelligent while being fucked up. And it's got this and that and the other thing. And, that, because otherwise you're going to get people like, oh, it was too gory. I didn't like that. Or it was, I don't know. I didn't feel good when it was over. So it needs to be a happier film, and it's like, I could not give two shits about what people like that think of my film or my work.
Me of a bloodier version of Kids. Did you watch the movie Kids?
I've seen Kids. I did not like it. I actually kind of hated everyone in Kids. So
I hated one in Kids. But I'm talking about it's that vibe. You know what I mean? It's like kind of that vibe. Now, I gotta ask you a question.
Sure.
So now in the indie filmmaker, it's so easy for anybody, especially horror, to make an indie filmmaker. Anybody with a fucking iPhone can now make a film. And I'm making this statement because I've heard several people say it. Don't you think it's weird that there's a lot of people who are not horror fans? Probably never even seen a horror film. I'm saying this for a real reason. I've ran into multiple people who've done it. But they say they want to make a movie, and a horror movie is the least expensive way to go, so they're going to make a horror movie. Do you see a problem with that? That people who are not fans are making horror movies?
I mean, I'm for whoever wants to make whatever can make whatever. It doesn't mean it's going to be good. Doesn't mean I'm going to want to watch it. And I can't really say, you can't really say something like that as deleting the market when, diluting the market when the market is literally anyone with an iPhone can go and make stuff. And, because that's the thing is not all of it is bad. Not all of it is bad. There are some people making some really impassioned, great stuff on when we did the first season of Demon Hunter, we had no budget. We shot with a point and shoot, and we purposely tried to get this kind of lo-fi, feel to it. With Bishop's Cove, we had like a big budget and, big for, us. I mean, compared to Hollywood, we're pocket change. It's, our budget's shit they find in the fucking couch. But when you're dealing with like the lower budget stuff, I see stuff from people that I look at and I'm like, oh wow, like this person has no technique, they have no style, they are just making crap. And most of the time when I see that, it's stuff where I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for my friend to die so I can turn this off. Because I'm watching, movie one of my friends is in. But then there's stuff that I've seen that's equally low budget that it's like, wow, this person may not have a lot of money, but they have a vision. And they're really, they're really making me compelled by this, even though, technically it looks awful. And maybe the sound is off or whatever, but the acting in it and the story they're telling, and even just the camera angles they're using with their little, crappy, fucking $1,000, old Sony or something. They're really able to do that. I think it's not so much a problem that people who aren't into horror are making horror movies. I think it's the same problem you run into with anyone making anything. It's a big thing that I've always kind of believed, that 95% of everything is shit. Doesn't matter whether you're talking film, television, radio, music, whatever. 95% of everything is awful. It's as the consumer and as it's your job to make something that's actually good, because there are other people who are going to be making stuff that isn't good. And, you kind of have to shine, you have to shine, and then you have to do the extra step of doing stuff like this where you promote, so because there is so much shit, I mean, if there was if Bishop's Cove was literally the only indie film being made this year, I wouldn't have to promote, but it is not. It is number 400,000 or something like that.
But I just find it odd, when someone says, "Oh, I have this horror movie for you to watch," I'm like, "Oh, awesome!" I'm like, so what's some of your inspiration? What's your favorite horror movie? I've never seen a horror movie in my whole entire life.
I mean,
what am I about to watch? I'm thinking to myself, what am I about to watch? If you never watched a horror movie, if you're not a horror fan, what am I about to watch?
As I said, I think for me, it really I think it's entirely possible. I've never seen anything I've enjoyed from someone who said that they don't like horror, but that doesn't mean that there can't be something good from that. It just means that, neither you nor I have seen it.
Yes.
Because it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. I mean, when I made Teresa and Allison, I made that because I was tired of vampire films. And someone said to me, you should make a lesbian vampire film. And I was like, that's the stupidest fucking idea I've ever heard. Why would I want to do that? And then all night it occurred to me, it's like, well, you used to like them. You used to like them when they were like The Hunger and and Near Dark and stuff like that. So instead of bitching about how much you hate vampire films, Charles, go and make one. Make one so you can show, you can actually make one you'll like. I will tell you, and some people may give me shit for this, but I don't care. I don't believe that I believe most werewolf movies are horrible. In fact, I remember a friend of mine was doing a top 10 werewolf movie list, and I'm like, okay, that's fake. There aren't 10 good werewolf movies.
There's only one. No, there's two. Silver Bullet is good. And Werewolf in Paris.
Yeah. What? Paris. Okay. I was gonna say. There's a few I like. I like Ginger Snaps. I do like The Howling, the first Howling, not the just diarrhea of film that became the sequels.
I had to watch part 3 of The Howling. Oh my goodness, I was going to do a bad review on it. That's what my channel was at first, and I was like, 10 minutes in, I was like, yeah, I can't do this.
I haven't seen any of them. I've seen parts of some of them, and every time I would see 5 minutes and be like, nope. The only one I've seen all the way through was part 2 because it was a gift. And I felt that, I feel it's rude. If someone spends money on something, you have to watch it. But I was just like, this is fucking horrible. For one, I'm convinced that The Howling 2 is someone took a vampire script and just crossed out vampire and put werewolves. Because number one, werewolves who live in Transylvania and, have this whole queen of the werewolves and Christopher Lee is hunting. Like, come on, dude. You made a fucking Dracula movie. You just crossed out all the fucking names and put werewolf on there.
You just gave me another video idea because, well, in a couple days I'm going to be doing my top 5 vampire movies. Mm-hmm. And that was hard to do. It was hard to do because majority of the lists are like from the 80s.
Yeah.
Like everything, it's been tough to, but werewolves, I'm going to be wrecking my fucking brain thinking of 5. That is a good fucking list. I'm going to wreck my brain and try to think of a top 5 list. Once again, you're going to already know what number 1 and number 2 are.
Yeah.
Like, what's 3, 4, and 5?
For me, I love Dog Soldiers. What the fuck is the other one? Oh my god. I actually stopped and thought about it, and I was able to come up with 6 good werewolf movies.
Okay, let me hear it.
But let's see. American Werewolf in London, okay. The Howling. I can't say Silver Bullet because I've only seen it once when I was like 12 and 6, so I don't remember any of it.
Okay.
Dog Soldiers. The first 2 Ginger Snaps movies, I like them. Of course, it's sad when you have to put a movie in its sequel as part of the list of like the entire genre. What the fuck was the 5th one? The 6th one. I can't remember. Because it's just so fucking difficult to think of good ones.
See, I'm the one putting Underworld in my fucking top 5, and Underworld's a horror movie, and it's not a werewolf movie, but there's werewolves in it. I think I'm to the point where I'm just gonna be like, fuck it.
I don't like the Underworld movies because it's like you have werewolves and vampires, and now they're gonna shoot at each other.
Yes.
Like, they might as well not be werewolves and vampires. They might as well just be like rival Matrix gangs or something.
I was so tempted to put Blade in my top 5 vampire movies. It was so fucking tough, man. It was.
Blade is fun.
Blade is fun, but I had my 3. I had to think of like 2 more. I was like, shit. I really like Blade, but that's not a vampire movie. Technically, it's a.
I would. You know what? I would put Blade in vampire movies. I would. I can't really talk much about the sequel, although to me, there's nothing more amusing than when you hear about the making of Blade Trinity.
Part 2 was better than Part 1, I thought.
I really liked Part 2 a lot, but I think it was missing. It was missing the thing that made me love Part 1, which was a villain. I thought Deacon Frost was an awesome villain.
He was. And
Part 2 didn't really have that. It just had kind of this brutish dude. And then Udo Kier. Well, Udo Kier was already dead. It was, God, who the hell else was it? Whoever like the vampire prince dude was. But like, had like Ron Perlman and stuff working for him. But I liked Part 2 a lot, but I think it was missing that kind of antagonist. Deacon Frost was fucking great. And, as long as you see, that's one of those movies where it's like, okay, the theatrical cut is actually better because Deacon Frost doesn't turn into a giant, like, whirlwind of Jello. Which, if you've ever seen him become the blood god in the deleted scenes or whatever, or some extended version, it's the cheesiest fucking shit ever.
I'm glad I didn't see that version.
Yeah, it literally just looks like swirling Jello.
Yes.
It's like, okay, I'm not, it's supposed to be like a tornado of blood, but I'm like, no, this is like 1990s computer graphics. It looks like Jello.
I was about to put the Fright Night, not the original, which I was about to put the reboot in my top 5. But I was like, can I put a reboot in my top 5? Like, I was like, ugh.
You know what? I'm glad to hear you say that though, because I actually really dislike the original Fright Night, and I like the reboot. I don't like. You know what killed me? The first one is Evil Ed. Evil Ed is the most annoying fucking character, and I cringed every time he'd come on to, like, up until any scene he's not in, I like, and then he comes in, and I hate his character so much it made me hate the movie.
There's 2 more reboots that people are going to give me shit in the comments for. I think are the best 2 horror remakes. They might be almost as good as the originals. Mm-hmm. Friday the 13th and Fright Night. Mm-hmm. Those are great reboots.
I don't know. The Friday 13th one, I didn't hate it.
I loved it.
But I will say I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot. Well,
oh, that's a good one too.
I was gonna say it's hard for me to say I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot because literally every sequel is somehow a reboot at this point. But you know, the one with Arlie Emery and Jessica Biel and stuff, like that was great. I actually on a podcast I was asked for my top I think it was 15 movies of the 2000s, and that was on. I think that made like number 11 or something like that because I love that film.
Great. And but the Chainsaw Massacre series is such an iconic series, but if you think about it, I think how many movies are in that? It's about 8 now. I want to say maybe by 8, and only 3 of them are good. Everything else is shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first one, I like part 2.
I love part 2. Part 2 is my favorite of the whole series.
And the remake, everything else, part 3 was horrible. New Beginning, of course, horrible.
Well, that's one of my problems with it is that I've said, you know, when people were complaining about the last reboot, and I was like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre at this point there's no point of complaining about anything they do because the next movie will just be a reboot, and it'll just pretend whatever you didn't like about this movie will no longer exist anymore. Because they've rebooted it so many times that no movie matters in it.
I remember I was one of the dumbasses that went to opening night to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D.
Oh, Lord.
I spent the fucking $25 to see that piece of shit.
Oh,
they gave me a poster, too. They gave me a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fucking 3D poster. And I put my 3D fucking glasses on, and I watched that piece of shit, and I was just sick to my stomach halfway through. I was like, I just spent $25. One of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Like, it just made me fucking sick. I mean, this movie was horrible. Mm-hmm. And then this, but guess what? It had a good idea. And then it's like another director came in like halfway through and was like, you know what? I'm not even paying attention to this fucking script is. I'm gonna do something completely fucking different. And let's make Leatherface a good guy. You're like what the fuck? The first half, he's just murdering people, and the second half, he's a hero. Like, what happened?
Yeah, I was. That reminds me of just currently what's going on with Halloween right now, where, you know, it was Halloween, so I was like, all right, let me compose my list of my ranking of the Halloween films, and well, you know, and then I realized there's like 2 I haven't seen because the movies before them were so fucking awful. That, you know, like I've never seen The Curse of Michael Myers, and from what I've read, I
saw that in the theaters. My older sister actually took me that. I was in fucking high school or middle school or something like that, and she took my sister and I didn't see that.
Yeah, because I actually really liked part 4, and I loved the twist at the end, and then part 5 was like, remember that twist? Yeah, we're not going to pay any attention to that whatsoever, and we're just gonna just make a shitty fucking slasher. And so I never saw 6, and then I never saw I literally just this year saw Halloween Resurrection. Because all it took was Busta Rhymes saying "trick or treat, motherfucker."
You're done.
And then I was like, no, I'm not watching that.
Movie fucked it. But that movie also fucked up a great ending from Halloween H2O. It's a great fucking ending.
Oh yeah.
Laurie fucking killed and this and that, and they're like, you know what? Fuck you. No, it wasn't him. It was a paramedic with a mask on. It completely. At that point, I was like, oh, what the fuck? Because I actually saw that movie in the movie theaters opening weekend, Resurrection. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I love HCL. Michael Myers is clearly dead. Somebody else is going to take over as fucking Michael Myers or something.
Yeah, no, Jason Lives, basically. What was it? A New Beginning? Friday 13th 5? What was that?
Yeah, New Beginning. Yep.
Yeah, New Beginning. That's the thing that makes sense is to do something like that.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. And then they did a whole thing where fucking Michael Myers put a mask on a paramedic and Lord is killed in the first 10 minutes, and it's like I'm like, oh fuck. That's what I said to myself in the movie. I was like, fuck. What did I just buy a ticket to?
Yeah, no, they I remember I saw H2O in the theater, and I remember everyone cheering when Michael got his head taken off and thinking, wow, that was a great end to the series. Little did I know.
It's
But
just left it at that.
yeah, yeah, and then like because I was reading all about like the making of that and about how they actually shot the stuff with the paramedic while they were shooting HTO, but they didn't tell Jamie Lee Curtis about it.
Yeah, pissed off about it.
Yeah, because she would have refused to be in the movie if Michael didn't get killed.
Yep.
And so I guess they got her in a 2-film deal or something, so she had to come back for Resurrection.
No, so they offer her a boatload of
Oh, well, there you go.
money, but her only way she was gonna come back was she said that I would have to be killed in the first 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, that's a good way to get out of being associated with the rest of the fucking movie.
She's gonna be killed off, gone, bye.
Yeah, the Harrison Ford deal.
Yes.
That was the funniest thing, man. When fucking Force Awakens, as soon as it was announced that Harrison Ford was in the movie, I'm like, oh, Han Solo's gonna die, because Harrison Ford has been complaining for years that George Lucas wouldn't kill off Han Solo. And the only way I know they could get Harrison Ford to come back is if they're going to kill him. And lo and behold.
Off.
But but that's the thing is that, like, and that's the problem is, like, it's one of the reasons also why I encourage people who are indie filmmakers to be very careful with the rights to your films. Because otherwise you do end up with like a Halloween 6 or a Halloween Resurrection type deal, or the 900 just random Texas Chainsaw Massacre things, because the rights end up owned by somebody else. And if they think they can squeeze a single dime out of it, whether they can have a script or not, like I was reading about, what was it? One of the Halloween films did not have a script 2 weeks before it fucking started shooting. But they had a shoot date, and so everyone had to fucking start shooting. It might have been 5. I was reading it today, so because I went down the rabbit hole of of reading about the making of all these Halloween films, so it kind of blended together. But one of them, yeah, I think it was 2 weeks before shooting. They had not agreed on a script yet.
Horror fans are the most loyal film fans, because, for instance, like the last Expendables movie, it tanked, it bombed, because action fans was like, no, the last fucking movie sucked. We're not going to go fucking see your next fucking shitty movie because we know it's going to be shitty, right? But horror fans, if you think about the iconic horror characters. You got Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy. You got Jason Voorhees, the Friday the 13th series. Halloween, Michael Myers, Chucky. You look at all of those series, right? Be honest with me. 80% of those movies and those series are complete garbage. Complete horrible. Except for Chucky. Chucky has a lot of good movies. But I
was gonna say, why Chucky gets away with it though, is because Chucky actually embraces how absolutely insane the fucking canon is. And still is just like, oh yeah, no, Glenn and Glenda was still a thing that happened. And yes, he had a cult in a mental hospital, and now he's in the White House. And I love that they just embrace how utterly fucking batshit insane the story of Child's Play has become.
I mean, we just said this 8 or 9 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Only 3 of them are good.
Mm-hmm.
Nightmare on Elm Street. There's only 2. I think that's good. And there's 7 or 8 of those.
Yeah, I love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Are like, I love the first one. I love fucking Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors is my favorite. I like it better than the original, to be honest.
Yeah. And then I think, to me, the worst one is still 5. Because that one just seemed like there were no ideas. I think, I know a lot of people hate Freddy's Dead, but I think 5 is even worse. Because there were no ideas in it.
Yeah.
There were no ideas whatsoever. It was just, well, we got to make another Nightmare movie. So,
and that's how Friday the 13th. Think about it. I mean, Friday the 13th. If I'm being honest, I like Part 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the reboot. And I like the one. Hold on, which one was the one with Corey Feldman? Was that Part 4?
Part 4, which I think is the best one.
So yeah, I like Part 4, Part 6, reboot.
Yeah, I like it a little more than you. There's a couple that I like. I actually really enjoyed the one with the fucking psychic girl. I think that's 7 or something like that. But yeah, no, it's also got like Jason Goes to Hell. It's just complete fucking dog shit. And it's also one of those movies where it's like, all right, well, if Jason had the power to be switching bodies and doing this shit and that shit, I could go back to about 10 instances of the previous movies where that would have been really fucking useful for him to do. You know, and it's so funny whenever like they add a weird power to you know, to a fucking character, that's always the first thought in your head. Is like, wait a minute, and they're saying he could always do this. He just never did.
I don't even like their original.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I can't really judge the original because I haven't seen it since I was a teenager.
Well, I watched it last year, and I was like, oh, I thought this movie was good. You know, it's one of those movies that like I don't think age well.
Yeah, it's interesting like that because I remember, you know, me and Chelsea for Cinematic Autopsy, we watched the original Carrie, and I forgot how fucking awful John Travolta was in that film. Like, he was fucking awful, and I showed a friend of mine the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and I felt the same way about Johnny Depp in that. And it was kind of interesting because it was like you kind of see, you know, just how I guess some people get better as they go through different films, or, you know, because I don't think anybody else in Carrie is bad as an actor, but John Travolta is fucking awful in that film.
Yeah.
And, you know, and same thing with, you know, I mean, the acting in the first Nightmare on Elm Street is not fucking Oscar worthy, but no one sticks out to me as being actually bad at their role except Johnny Depp.
And he became the biggest actor out of everybody in that movie.
Yeah, he became absolutely gigantic, and he had, you know, before he became, I'm Johnny Depp and I do quirky shit, like, you know, in like the fucking up until Sleepy Hollow, which was the last movie he actually acted in, and then he just became Johnny Depp. But up until Sleepy Hollow, he did some great performances and stuff.
Donnie Brasco is my favorite Johnny Depp movie.
Yeah, Donnie Brasco, even some of the early Tim Burton stuff was really good. Like Edward Scissorhands, Ed Wood, you know.
Yeah.
You know, he did some really great stuff, and then he just kind of fell into that, well, I don't have to act anymore, so I just, you know, I'm quirky. You know.
Depp is definitely acting all the time now. I mean, I feel like he's Captain Jack Sparrow now because he has this weird like he talks like he's from England or something, and the guy from Kentucky. Like he has this weird way that he talks now. He's never talked that way. Like before. It's
the Madonna thing, where at a certain point in your fame, you just decide I'm going to adopt an accent. And and here's the funny thing about that though, is I can tell you if I right now decided for the next 3 months I was going to speak like Elvis, that would become my regular voice. Because that's how accents work, and it's really funny that the more you know, if I just spoke like Elvis for 24/7 for the next 3 months, having a regular conversation with me, I would just be like this the whole time. You know, and that would be you know, because you train yourself to talk a particular way.
And that's Jack Sparrow now. He's literally Captain Jack Sparrow. He talks like Captain Jack Sparrow now.
Yeah, he's trained himself to speak that way. That's how.
Because he didn't talk that way. I mean, watch Donnie Brasco. Watch what's the other one? Black Mass, I believe it was. Watch all those movies. He doesn't talk that way. Mm-hmm. And like now he's Jack Sparrow now. I mean, he was
it's an affect.
Talking to Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, no, it's an affect, and I can tell you. And as I said, when I say this about accents, I can tell you from experience, because this voice that I am talking to you right now was me trying to soften my New York accent.
Okay.
Because growing up, I spoke like this. Mm-hmm. So, you know, but then when you get into the professional world, people are like, I don't want to have a meeting with a guy who talks like Joe Pesci. You know, so So, to sound more professional, I tried softening my vowels and stuff and speaking less like an Italian from, from New York, and more of, this the dulcet tones that you hear now. But what's really funny is there's still words, and I'm sure this is true for Johnny Depp or Madonna or any of those people. There's still words that I still say with the accent because I never quite was able to figure out how to say that, like pajamas. I can't say pajamas without the accent.
But if I had to listen to that Captain Jack Sparrow accent 24/7, I might shit on his pillow too.
Well, there you go. I mean,
I might cut his fingertips off too. I'm like, yo, you should fuck up. Like, I don't want to hear Captain Jack Sparrow 24/7.
Oh, Lord. But yeah, I mean, that's just the thing, man, is that, like, you get into that and you just develop. It's one of the things, if you also watch interviews with Christian Bale, for about a month after any movie he does will have the accent of whatever character he just played.
Wow.
When he does interviews, yeah, he will have that character's accent. Because I've seen him speak with an English accent. I've seen him speak with, like Patrick Bateman. And he's British, but like you get into that. It's one of the things about being an actor is that you kind of you're training yourself to do that, especially if you're like methody people. The people who are like, I'm gonna gain 80 pounds for this role and only eat like tuna for the next 6 months of my life. Because my character does it. Or if you're like Daniel Day-Lewis, who I demand to wear Lincoln's underwear. True story, by the way.
No, yeah, he was literally talking like Abraham Lincoln 24/7.
Yeah.
Eating like Abraham Lincoln, talking about the 1800s, and he really was. He became Abraham Lincoln, and that's incredible because and you can kind of see in that movie he is. You forget that he's not Abraham Lincoln. Like it's not like Will Smith playing Muhammad Ali, where you're like, that's clearly Will Smith playing Muhammad Ali.
That's Will Smith after a lot of months in the gym.
I know.
I can make that joke as long as I keep Jada's name out of my mouth.
I know.
Otherwise, you'll just see his hand come to the fucking side of the screen and slap me.
But people act like Will Smith is such a great actor. No one goes to see a Will Smith movie because you're thinking that, oh my God, you're going to see this masterpiece of art. No, Will Smith is a joking. Will Smith is Will Smith in every movie. Yes. He's Will Smith.
And there's a reason for that. It's because he actually has a writer that he takes with him on films who rewrites all of his dialogue for him.
Yeah, he's it's not Hitch. It's Will Smith on TV.
Yeah,
it's not Muhammad Ali. It's Will Smith with a pair of boxing gloves on.
Yeah, which is weird to me because it's like I wonder what type of performances they could get out of him if he didn't have a writer just to make him sound like himself in every film.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally. I mean, people who say Will Smith is a great actor, I'm looking like it's almost like people who say Idris Elba is a great actor. I'm like, no, he's literally the same character in every movie.
I don't know, man. He was amazing in The Wire. In The Wire, he was fucking great.
I do say that he's amazing in The Wire, but if you look at every other character, it's pretty much him. I mean, there's a lot of actors and actresses who are. I'm trying to think what them. Morgan Freeman is the same character. Morgan Freeman is Morgan Freeman in every movie. I'm not saying he's a bad actor or anything.
Well, no. I mean, I think. Well, that's the thing is, I think at a certain point they also no one's hiring Christopher Walken to play a different character.
No, although he's Christopher Walken.
Yeah, people hire him so he can do his Christopher Walken thing. Although I know he's in the next Dune, and if he's just playing Christopher Walken, that's going to be jarring. So I wonder. I'm hoping they brought him in. I'm hoping he agreed to it because he was like, "Oh, great, I get to be someone else besides myself." But and that's not me even talking shit about Christopher Walken because there are some amazing Christopher Walken films out there.
Sure.
Although there was that period where I started to wonder if he knew he was allowed to say no to a script. But
it's amazing Will Smith and it's amazing Morgan Freeman. But they are playing themselves. I mean,
Oh
they
yeah.
really are. They show up, and I'm kind of jealous. I wish I could somehow give millions of dollars to just be in a movie and just act like Travis. That'd be amazing.
See, that's the thing is I know some actors really love doing that, and I know as an actor myself, I really don't. I mean, hey, it's comfortable for me to play shitty people, but I want to challenge myself. I want to keep doing, I don't ever want to be like, well, let's just call Charles and have him play Charles.
Yeah. Will Smith's money. I don't care.
Yeah. Like I just feel like like one of the things, like that's why I love Tom Hardy, because it took me a while to even know what Tom Hardy looked like outside of the roles he played.
He's looked so different.
Yeah.
In every movie.
Yeah. So it was great because it was like I have no idea what this man looks like outside of his films, because he looks completely different in, say, Bronson, that he looks in, and something. I'm trying to think of like, or how he looks in Peaky Blinders, or like, anything. Like I love actors that are chameleons like that are able to go and just change their whole persona and their mannerisms and their accents and everything. And it's it is one of the reasons I love Christian Bale. I mean, Christian Bale looked like fucking Dick Cheney in a movie. Yep. Like that's amazing to me that he's able to pull that sort of thing off. And I think that's the joy of working with an actor it's one of the things with my films, with the actors that I work with. I will never cast them as the same type of character twice, ever.
That's good.
Because I want them to be challenged, and I also don't want to just, like Chelsea nailed the character of Julie in Demon Hunter, who is this, just drunken high, sleeping around demon hunter who really can't be bothered and only does shit because, she's getting paid to do it. And then, I cast her as the Nameless in Bishop's Cove, where she's this, kind of like rabid, fucking hateful demon thing. And that's what I love to see. Is I love to be able to challenge people. And I love to be able to go and do something new and exciting with them, and to constantly give them like a challenge.
That's amazing. I'm a Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, by the way. And he's literally the same character in every fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I'm not a huge Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, but I am a fan of Sudden Death because of Powers Booth. And Powers Booth having some of the most amazing villain dialogue that I've ever heard in an action film. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll fill your mouth with spiders, little girl. And, or that, like, what kind of psychopath are you? The best kind. And so I love that movie because of that. I do love that Jean-Claude Van Damme has a sense of humor about himself now.
He does.
Yeah. I kind of love that he did like JCVD.
I love that.
Yeah, and he's kind of just, explain, because fucking Steven Seagal, who might as well just be, Steven Seagal might as well just be a fucking chair in a moo-moo these days. Yeah. Who has never had a sense of humor about himself, even though he's always had the laziest fucking moves ever in any action movie. Mm-hmm. And he's, I mean, like I remember hearing about how he would get angry on the set of Saturday Night Live because they would tell a joke that was at his expense. They'd be like, no, I could kick that guy's ass.
And every single one of his movies is a vanity project. Mm-hmm. The smartest, most sexiest man, who was the most badass man, and he's always having a sex scene with an attractive woman. Even in his newer movies, he's like 70 years old. Big and fat. He's a sexy guy. By the way, I'm gonna have you back on my show, and we're gonna talk about Neil Breen. Have you ever watched any of his movies?
You have to name some titles for me so I can say.
I can't think of the name in Neil Breen movies, but I know it's one he plays. In all his movies, he plays Jesus, or he plays like God, or he's the smartest, baddest. Watch some of his movies. I'm gonna send you some of his movies over. Just watch a couple.
I will. I'll just say, I I saw the cover of a Steven Seagal film, and I hadn't seen him in years and years, and I legit thought from a distance, because I didn't really see, Steven Seagal's name and stuff. From a distance, I thought it was Danny McBride doing a fucking parody of action films. Like I saw the poster and it goes, oh shit, that's Danny McBride. It'll probably be funny. And I look and go, oh no, that's what Steven Seagal looks like these days. Holy shit.
Oh my goodness, his movies are so fucking bad. Like, I mean, even his earlier stuff was bad. I don't know how he became a bit. I mean, at least Jean-Claude Van Damme, his character was a likable character. Yeah. But also, Steven Seagal actually put into his contracts that he's not allowed to get hit. So in all his movies, he has no, like, Jean-Claude Van Damme gets fucked up in these movies. Face swollen, black eyes bleeding, half to death. It's somewhat realistic. Steven Seagal's big fat ass, no marks, because no one's allowed to hit him in any of his movies. he put into his contract, I'm not allowed to get hit. My character is not allowed to get hit.
My character is just that invincible. He's just that amazing at martial arts.
I can't stand. But you know who else has that in their contract? Vin Diesel.
Really?
And the fucking Fast and the Furious movies.
I've actually never seen one. I've somehow gone through life having never seen a Fast and Furious movie, and I don't feel I'm missing anything.
He'll be wearing a white T-shirt in the beginning, getting blown up, running this and that motherfucker will still be white at the end of the movie.
So I guess he took the shirt from Sally from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Exactly.
Whose white pants are white somehow in a fucking house full of corpses.
Everything else.
And blood and gore and fucking Leatherface who has to just, I mean, Leatherface would fucking stain you just touching you with his fucking and yet somehow when she's in that fucking, she gets in that truck or whatever at the end of the movie, the pickup truck or whatever, her pants are white as the fucking day she bought them.
Yes, they are.
No. I was going to say, I assume her and Vin Diesel shop at the same store.
Yes, they do. I need one of those fucking shirts. Because if I wear anything fucking white, as soon as I put it on, I got a fucking stain. Literally, something is just boom on the fucking shirt. Anyway, Charles, where can everyone find you, man?
I can be found at Instagram on charles.d.lincoln. And you can find Bishop's Cove, which is the film that I'm promoting, starring Emily McKinley Hill, Chelsea Lesage, Anna Paulette, and Nana Govia and Willow Lottenberg. You can find it at festivals coming very soon, and there will be something we announced. So go to Bishops_Cove on Instagram for our announcement very soon, within the coming weeks. And you can buy on DVD from DVD and Blu-ray from Burning Bulb. You can get 21st Century Demon Hunters Season 1 Director's Cut, and Teresa and Allison, my very extreme fucked up vampire movie, which I wrote and produced, and I'm one of the antagonists in it, because surprise, surprise, I get to play a piece of shit. And you can find those on Amazon, on Walmart, and Best Buy, and all places where those ones you might have to order specially because they came out like a year ago, but you can still order them on their websites, especially Amazon, Barnes & Noble and all that sort of stuff, or directly from Burning Bulb Publishing. So you get to see my two previous works, and Bishop's Cove, as I said, we will have a big announcement very soon as to how you the viewer, can see it.
All right. Well, once you get that information, hit me up, and I want to have you back on. And
awesome. Thank you.
And you can make an announcement on my show.
Awesome.
All right. Well, everyone, please check out Charles Lincoln. Check out his movies. Check out his website. And follow him on Instagram. This guy is a bunch of fun. And check out the trailer, too, of Bishop's Cove. It's on YouTube right now. It's fucking dark.
Thanks.
Charles,
I tried.
Charles, it's been a pleasure, man. I'm gonna have you back on soon. We'll talk soon and have you back on.
Right. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce. Y'all take care.